Governor Scott, why the delay in coming out over a fan?
Well, I waited until we figured out if he was going to show up. He said he wasn't going to come to the. He said he was going to come to the debate. So why come out until he's ready?
This eve of another election day brings many emotions to the surface. Pride for some, loathing fear for others. But if there is one thing we have to do in order to properly prepare for this round of carnage, it's laugh a lot. Let's welcome to MidPoint one who has learned the only way to survive in this political climate is to seek out the joke. His newest book is the Political Bible of Humorous Quotations from American Politics. Politicians Unplugged, What They Say, When They Said It, and Why. Richard Rubino joins us today on MidPoint. Richard, thanks so much for being here.
Welcome. Glad to be here.
Is it fair to say that with social media the way it is now and everybody recording every little single thing that is seen and heard everywhere, that this is now the easiest time in the world to make jokes and to laugh at politicians because damned if they don't say something funny at least every 37 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when Rutherford B. Hayes was running for president, his opponent didn't have trackers out, trying to find every little faux pas that he makes. Nowadays, a campaign, I mean, you figure if 90% of what you're doing is correct, then there's always that 1% of time you may say something, you may misspeak or say something that somehow offends somebody, and then it just, with the social media atmosphere, it just goes ad nauseum, and then you're spending the rest of the campaign sometimes off message trying to defend what you said rather than talking about your ideological agenda for the state or for the country.
Is the amazing thing that a lot of these, almost every single one of these politicians seems to forget that thanks to social media, we see and hear everything. I even think of perhaps when Barack Obama made one of his statements and the vice president comes up and looks at him and said, this is a big you-know-what deal. The mic was on. There it was. Don't they know that they're being recorded everywhere?
Maybe it's a generational thing. I mean, I think, certainly the millennial generation, I think that's really grown up with this whole Facebook and MySpace and Friendster atmosphere. Maybe as they become aspiring politicians in the future, maybe there won't be as many gaffes in that respect. But you're on, 24/7, and it's very hard to be perfect. And actually, speak about Barack Obama, in his 2008 presidential campaign, he actually did a pretty good job. The only real mistake that hurt him was when he was in San Francisco when he talked about remember the whole thing about God and guns and about people in blue collar areas trying to cling to God and guns and protectionism. Essentially, that was the only real big mistake that he made in that election. Maybe that's because he's a little bit younger, but it's very easy for somebody to make a mistake, and there's always going to be a tracker there from the other campaign, and that tracker is going to run it, and then you're going to see a negative ad. And you're going to see this person saying this ad nauseum time after time after time.
Out of the politicians that we look at here in 2014, are there one or two that immediately come to mind as it's too easy? They're going to say something that is absolutely going to be laughable.
Well, certainly, I think in many respects, I think Joe Biden would be the perfect example. Joe Biden, he's an interesting example because here's somebody who was elected to the United States Senate at the age of 29. He was literally not constitutionally eligible to serve in the Senate. Of course, he turned 30 before his election, but he continues to make these gaffes. It's almost like he never went to the school politicians go to in terms of how to be, how to choreograph every single move. You remember when he talked about jobs and he said, he said the three-letter word and he said JLBS, for example. Another perfect example is Martha Coakley. You might remember she ran against Scott Brown in 2010. And 2010, this is right, 2009, 2010 cycle, in the special election to succeed late Senator Ted Kennedy, and she blew basically a 31-point lead. And one of the things she said, for example, Scott Brown had gone out. There was a hockey game at Fenway Park in the winter, which was kind of a novelty, and a Bruins game. And Scott Brown had gone out and shook hands in front. And they asked Martha Cook why she didn't just do it, and she said, "Why? And get my hands cold." I mean, it's amazing that somebody would say that someone would be so out of touch in terms of not thinking that there would be some sort of a deleterious defect to that. There really are so many examples. Many times. She's running for United States Senate. They asked her, did you support Barack Obama, who of course is extremely unpopular in the state of Kentucky? Instead of kind of biting the bullet and saying she did, or saying she supported somebody else, or even saying she didn't vote, she said, "Well, I'm Secretary of State and I believe in the secret ballot." That is, I think, being cautious to a degree that it almost becomes a gaffe because it becomes a story the next day is, she actually said that she wouldn't say who she's going to vote for, yet she's running for United States Senate. I mean, it's very interesting. Jean Shaheen, for example, is running for Senate in New Hampshire, or she's incumbent, she's running for re-election, running for a third term. They asked if Allison King of New England Cable News asked a question, if you're running, if you get a poll and you get the question, do you approve or disapprove of Barack Obama, what would you say? And she says, well, I approve of some things, I disapprove of some other things.
There you go. They just can't make up their mind no matter which way we turn. The book, once again, is The Political Bible of Humorous Quotations from American Politics. Politicians Unplugged, what they said, when they said it, and why. And I get a feeling that, Rich, you're going to have a whole lot more material after tomorrow. Richard Rubino, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, I enjoyed it.
All right, coming up next, breaking back with the man who is once again taking on the federal government in the courts.